I'm so happy because our guest has landed at the top of the tower today. She is the BBC's chief international correspondent, award-winning journalist, has written her first major book. It's a narrative non-fiction. We'll explain that in a second. It's called The Finest Hotel in Kabul, and she is here to talk about it today. Please welcome Lyse Doucet. Welcome, Lyse. Lovely to see you.
Wow, I'd love to be in your studio. If only your listeners could see it. Wow, it's all... I mean, there's lots of stars, but of course there's only one star in here, and that's you,
And that's
Ryan.
you.
Yes,
and,
that's
and
the view, you could... What, you can't see all the way to Dublin here?
You can see Dublin. On a clear day you can see forever, But as a journalist who's been all over the world, as you have been, you've seen probably pretty grimy. You've reported from pretty interesting places. But I was saying to you before we came on air, I'm a huge fan of yours and an admirer of yours because I believe you. And in a few minutes' time, I want to talk to you about that.
So important. That's
so important.
T-word, trust.
Trust.
You thought they were going to say Trump, right?
No, that's it. And you came in and you said, look, I'm sorry I'm late, which you weren't. You were bang on time. But you said, what a big news day today. We'll talk about that in a second because I was watching that press conference last night from beginning to end, as obsessed as I am. But I want to talk to you about your book, The Finest Hotel in Kabul. You were just the day after your 30th birthday, you land and you see this hotel, and sometimes, and I can see this from your book, an inanimate place or object can become a central character in a play. And you've chosen this as the key actor in this play that you've written about. Essentially, it's even though it's non-fiction. So, talk to us about the hotel.
I think I probably would. I think maybe speak for you. You're a news hound, as you said, and I think for all of your listeners is that the news gets so depressing and so glum and grim. Right. And then there was this thing we call in my business called news avoidance. People turning away from the news.
Very dangerous. Yeah.
We're so fortunate to live in a society. Not perfect, as you remind people, but we live in a democracy and we have to know what's happening in the world. And I thought, how can I tell these stories differently?
Yeah.
How can I find, you called it narrative, non-fiction, narrative history, to use the conventions of a novel, of fiction, to tell a non-fiction story. And I needed a prism, as they say, or a conceit.
Through which to see it. Yes,
and let's be honest, who doesn't love a hotel? Yeah. And if we can afford it, get a discount, a luxury hotel. Yeah. And who knows, an Intercontinental. And the Intercontinental Kabul was actually my first Afghan home. I arrived there, as you say, Christmas Day, 1988, the day after my 30th birthday. And Kabul is in the clutches of the worst winter in more than a decade, but also in the depths of the Cold War. That time, decades ago, that battle between the Soviet Empire and the West, led by the United States. And I was there to report on a momentous time in history. And I thought, where am I going to say? And there was this hotel on the hill, on the edge of Kabul. It wasn't a real intercom because the Intercontinental luxury chain that I'm sure all of your listeners have heard about had pulled out when Soviet troops went into Afghanistan. But Afghans being Afghans kept that name. So it was still called the Intercontinental. And, just picture it. I'm walking into this lobby. It's cold and dark. And I come up into the reception. And what do receptionists say? How long are you staying, man? And I thought, in a suit as gloomy as the lobby, and I thought, this panic struck me. And I thought, is it going to be 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months? And the receptionist smiled, an Intercontinental smile. And I ended up staying nearly a year.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
And the people in the hotel became my friends. They provided service with a smile in the most unusual and very Afghan ways. So when I set out to write a story about Afghanistan, I thought, why not set it in my first home? Because I kept going back to the Intercontinental time and again. And the story is the book is not a memoir, although I have to appear sometimes in that Alfred Hitchcock way, I just kind of go in and out. It's told through the stories of the people who kept this hotel, this landmark hotel, running for more than 50 years.
When people hear Afghanistan now, it's either a trigger to switch off the television
exactly.
or the radio.
Keep listening.
Come,
Ryan's
stay
here.
with us.
Ryan's here. Don't go away.
We're all here
don't
together.
Don't make your tea yet. Keep the kettle boiling, but don't make it.
It's
Leave
true.
the tea bag out.
Leave the tea bag out. And it's true. They go Afghanistan. And what happens is, and I'll say the same for Northern Ireland.
Yeah, okay,
once upon a time,
exactly.
And they hear, once upon a time, you can say Iraq.
Yes.
And what gets lost in the news, and in some ways, in the history, is a sense of humanity, of art, of culture,
of life, life in the midst of the death. Yes.
And all you see is headline. I'm never going to go there. It's a war zone. You forget, and that's why the hotel, as you say, is as a prism. It really brings it down. And what you've got really is oral history.
Yes, the stories of the people there. It's true. On the news, and you and I are in the business of the news, but let's be honest, we only provide a snapshot of what's happening. So what you see on the news, you see people running away from the bombs. You see people crying in the rubble of their homes. You see people in the hospital in tears. Well, Afghans, and it could be Ukrainians, it could be Sudanese, it could be people in North, it could be people anywhere. They have to get up in the morning. They got to make that cup of tea. Yeah. They've got to find a measure of hope, humanity, laughter, humor. Because Afghans, as I found people living, and you must look at the Irish, that sense of humor, to get through the day. People have children. They send them off to school if schools are open. They have weddings. They have birthdays. What I have found is when death is at the door, you live like there is no tomorrow, because there might not be. I wanted people to meet Abida, the first female sous chef, who loves her cooking, and how can she cook? And she's a seamstress, this wonderful embroidery. Or Hazrat in his 70s now, so proud to have been trained by a proper Intercontinental. I wanted to give some dignity to these people, to see, literature has this great power to try to expand our horizons, expand our empathy, perhaps in a way that news can sometimes. We have to keep trying to keep opening it up. So it's my way of trying to tell an old story in a new way.
Well, I couldn't help thinking, I'm sure people have said it to you, of the Wes Anderson movie, The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yes. Don't you love that? It's really quirky, the bellboy, and I kept thinking of the bellboy.
Did you have the same
with that
thought?
Little moustache. Yes, that little moustache. You had the bellboys.
It's faded grandeur.
We all know the rhythms and rituals of a hotel. So this is a hotel where history lives within its walls. As you began by saying, it's a character. And, I'm just going to tell your listeners a little secret, but they may be saying, Lyse, we don't want to know the secret. You go to thebooking.com and you can book a room at the Intercontinental Kabul. Now, they don't tell you it's run by the Taliban now, because whoever rules in Afghanistan sets the rules at the end. No music, no dancing, don't pack your bikinis and your sunscreen, because there's no bikinis by the swimming pool. There's no cocktails in the lounge. In fact, there's no cocktails anywhere unless you have a very good Afghan friend who serves it in their home. But there's still a hotel there, and it carries on. And in some ways, a hotel, the Intercontinental, which was built in 1969 when Afghanistan was a kingdom. So I bet there are some hippies listening in. Afghanistan was a kingdom. It was called the Kabul of Asia. It was on the hippie trail. Yeah. People were flocking to Kabul for let's be, their children listening, high on weeds, living cheaply in those hostels, bringing back those embroidered vests. Even the Beatles wore them. Yes. So here was the Intercom was the first luxury hotel in all of Afghanistan. And in a culture where hospitality is hardwired in people, the home of hospitality, the National Guest House, seemed a fitting prism, because so much history has gone through the hotel. War and peace and war again.
I think you said that people like politics check in and check out.
Yes,
and
they do. Yes.
We'll stick around for a few minutes, Lyse Doucet. Our guest today, her book is called The Finest Hotel in Kabul. It's a people's history of Afghanistan. It's important as a sub headline to the title of the book. We'll have more after this. Canada, the Canadian writer, novelist who I enjoyed tremendously for her Gamache series is Louise Penny.
Oh no, Louise is a good friend of mine.
You're joking.
Yeah. Shall I bring her in? Shall I call her?
Yeah, I'm very tempted. She's coming here in a few months' time.
Oh right, so she's lovely, and such a generous.
This is great. Okay.
Here I was writing my first book, and Louise has like 20-something books, and she's become like my, helping me to promote all the way.
Mobilizing.
Yes.
And so she wrote the book, obviously, with Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
And I've interviewed Louise a couple of times. She's a delight. But what I'll say to you about, I don't know why I meant, Canada. Yes, you're from Canada originally.
Where were we?
And what I'll say to you is, the reason your book is very beautiful is because obviously you're a trusted source, let's say that, but that sounds a bit glib. But also, you write what is essentially history and politics, which are intermingled depending on when the rules are written. But you write it with a beautiful sense of a novelist almost.
Oh, you're so kind.
Yeah, no. There's beautiful writing within it, and Louise would be very proud of that, I'm sure, because if she's your friend, because it doesn't
she
feel
never
like
reads nonfiction. I'll tell you what. Since I don't want to, President Trump came up with a very good word the other day.
What's that?
I don't want to be braggadocious.
Yes.
Braggadocious. So I don't want to be braggadocious, but Louise Penny gave me this beautiful quote. She says, Lise, when I used to listen to news about Afghanistan, I just listened to the news. Now when I hear news about Afghanistan, I think about Hazrat and Abada and Muhammad Agha, the characters in
the book.
That's
the
exactly
reception
which was a huge compliment in itself, but also from Louise Penny.
Well, she's fab. And you know, well, I remember one day being on the radio, I got quite moved by a report I heard, and it was back to school time in this part of the world, Ireland, the UK, whatever. And the kids were going back to school, and I was saying to the kids, don't be worried about going to school. Did you hear the report on the news? And what it was kids in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
could have been even
Europe.
Europe. They were trying to get to school, and they were crying because the girls couldn't get into school because the Taliban had arrived back. And I thought the importance, of education and the access.
The door's open. Look at me landing in one of the biggest broadcasters in the world and coming from Nowheresville on the east coast of Canada. It's education is a gift, and sometimes I don't want to sound cheesy but sometimes we do take for granted
a little bit
what we have because we think it's normal and obvious, but it's not in the world where we're finding, and not to tip over into news, a lot of the values and the norms we took for granted are slipping away.
Oh, and do you know what I didn't realise? How brittle. How fragile. I was sure that they were like Mount Rushmore, carved in stone.
Yes.
But that stone can be rubbled pretty quickly, and you have to fight for it. And one of the difficulties, one of the reasons I enjoy your reporting so much is not only the authority and the experience that you bring to what you do, but you say the T word is trust. I have trouble. Tell me as a punter who consumes news.
Yes.
I really have trouble consuming a lot of news now because of things like AI, because everyone thinks they're a reporter, because everyone can make a channel look so official on Instagram, what have you. I'm really finding it. I don't know what nearly to believe what I'm looking at now.
Yes, the videos especially. I was just looking at a video this morning. I think, did they say that? Did they not? And thinking, no. There's no way. Again, who wants to to add extra pressure? But we all have to be vigilant, asking, interrogating everything we see. That's why we have to turn to trusted people we trust.
Yeah, and verify.
Yes, verify. Yes,
check. And you have more hoops to jump through to make sure that the person you're talking to or the footage you're seeing has to be bulletproof. If excuse the expression.
Yes.
Because it's strange. Everyone with the phone thinks they're a journalist. Now they're not. It's not that easy.
Yes. Yeah. It's a really challenging time, almost an existential time for independent journalism. We're fighting for the truth. We're fighting for trust, and we're fighting for the values and a life worth living that we all hold dear.
Yeah. When you look at I'm not going to ask you about what do you think of, because that's not fair. What do you think of that person or that person, because that's not your job. Is what your opinion doesn't.
No personal.
No,
I'm sure this is your attack either. No personal attacks. No. Yes.
No
I
ad hominem.
Remember, I was told don't swear on Ryan's program. I never swear. I'm a good girl, good girl from Eastern Canada.
You would never. But it's just you have to have your ducks in a row before you come on the TV or go on the radio to tell your story. You've got to.
And also, you don't want to leave people very conscious now. And I speak for myself, is that no one wants to believe that all is lost. We want to, now that we have digital media, they can look at the numbers. Sometimes we don't like to look at the numbers, like how many people are watching, how many people,
I know.
They can be brutal, but they also tell us what people like, and people don't want just grim.
Yeah.
They want to feel they have some agency. And I've always tried to, used to be that expression by the Italian Marxist, optimism of the will and pessimism of the intellect. And that was, of course, decades ago. Then I took a new one by a man I so admired, Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa. Yeah. And he said, we are prisoners of hope. But my favorite one, Ryan, is the Irish one. The situation is hopeless, but not serious.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Good. I like that. And who wrote, of course, that and peace comes dropping slowly.
That's beautiful.
Well, that gets
peace comes dropping slowly.
Yeah,
is that in Northern Ireland?
I think that's a Heaney. If
Oh,
I'm
is
not
that
mistaken.
Heaney?
Jack
Oh.
might. Could you verify
Yes,
my source there?
check.
Check myself.
Peace stripped. What is a peace?
A peace comes dropping slowly.
That's
It was used a
gorgeous.
lot during the peace process negotiations for the Good Friday Agreement.
It's beautiful because it's this.
It's either Yeats or Heaney. I'm not sure which one.
One of the greats.
We'll find
now
out.
it's yours.
It's Yeats.
Now it's yours.
It's Yeats.
I'm going to quote you.
No, quote Yeats for goodness' sake. Well, which of his poems was it? The title of the poem? Can you remember, Jack? The Lake Olive Finish Free. Yeah, lovely. Okay. I must arise and go now. Lovely.
Yes.
Okay, well, we must arise and go now.
Yeah.
What an appropriate way to finish our chat.
Nice being your listeners are lucky to have a good man like you on the microphone. I really enjoyed it.
very
If only
generous.
they could see you. This emphasizes to me that for all of our dazzling technology, nothing replaces face-to-face conversations.
I agree.
Yeah.
And much more so than down the line even than a phone
Yes.
call. This is great. It's been a joy to meet
Thank
you.
you very
I'm
much,
an
Ryan.
admirer, as you know, and Lyse Doucet, your book, The Finest Hotel in Kabul, is a love letter to an extraordinary building populated by fascinating people. Congratulations.
Okay, I've just joined your fan club.
Thank you.
Virgin Radio.